everyone. My name is Akhil Oltikar. I'm with Riverwood Solutions. We help hardware companies take their products from concept all the way to the market and to the customer. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at the later stages of the presentation, but the presentation is actually focused on slightly different topic around all the devices which you see coming, talking about IoT, wearables, consumer electronics, and what does it really take when it comes to manufacturing and supply chain of these devices. There's a saying going on where software is eating the world, but hardware gives us teeth. So you may have all the devices, all the plans on the software side, but unless a device is there in the market, you can manufacture it at a cost and a reliable quality and deliver it on time, you're not going to get there. So I'm going to share some nuggets of information, some experience about what we have experienced with our customers and in general in the industry, manufacturing and supply chain, and then talk about what some do's and don'ts from our experience with all these customers. So talking about manufacturing, if you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. If you have never done it, it's pretty much impossible. Let me share some data with you to back this up. This is about a year and a half old data from Kickstarter Indiegogo campaigns on hardware products. About 91 VC-backed crowdfunded projects that have been raised, about 580 to 600 million dollars in these hardware projects. What's interesting is on the right-hand side, if you see the numbers, 1 out of 5 was delivered on time. 1 out of 5 projects was delivered. So let's say 80% of these projects, hardware projects, IoT, wearables, consumer electronics, were late. You can look at the numbers below, about 411 millions of venture capital fund tied up in late projects. 50 million of consumer or crowd-funded dollars tied up in late projects. Why does this happen? I mean, just some more data around hardware companies. We have many customers in the IoT space. Hardware companies raise more money relative to the other industries, or the startups relative to the other industries. Follow-ons from a hardware perspectives, not good enough, right? This is a macro level data, and just focusing on what we have experienced and what we have seen in the market. Now, here is a graph just explaining of what we see as a typical hardware startup path. On the left-hand side, this axis is the money that is going into these projects, manufacturing a hardware. You have a concept, you want to manufacture, get the product out into the market. Right-hand side is a degree of success for these startups, and the x-axis, so to say, is the time. Typical hardware startup path is where there's a lot of it is capital intensive, relative to a software industry, for example, or a software startup. It is very capital intensive to get a hardware product manufactured. So there is money that pumps into the startup. You have a typical, if everything goes right, you're looking at anywhere from 14 to 18 months from concept to getting the first products out into the market, if everything goes right. And then there is a certain degree of success, what you would experience. This is a typical path which we have seen. There is money that goes into the capital expenditure, setting up manufacturing, doing the product design and so on and so forth, and delivering the products to the market. And it is not a good picture to the earlier slide what we saw. About 80% of these projects are late, or 30% out of those don't even deliver the projects to the market. But the key is speeding this time to profitability and sustained success for IoT hardware startups. How do we do that? Accelerating the time, increasing the likelihood of success, and then the degree of success. And then there are several factors to it. I want to share with you what we have experienced. Now, if you look at it, there is a technology risk when you're looking at a hardware, whatever industry that could be. You're overshooting the market, or technology isn't there. There is a management team risk, so to say, that you don't have the right team or the skill set on board to deliver that. There could be the execution risk, which is associated with manufacturing. You may be really good with the concept and the R&D on the product, but taking a product from one unit to millions of units being manufactured, it's a completely different story. So all the risk is associated with it. I'm going to talk about a little more on the execution risk associated with manufacturing of hardware products. So several challenges, again sharing some of the key ones that we have experienced. If you look at the flow right at the top, from a product concept all the way to scaling and delivering to the market, there are several challenges that come at different stages. A prototype, when we talk about a hardware prototype, if you're building an IoT device, a prototype is ready not because you have one unit that sits in front of the table, which is a working unit, but a prototype is ready when you have that working unit that could be manufactured at scale. And it's two different stories, basically, when we talk about having one unit versus thousands of units. A lot of challenges, whether it's a lack of design inputs, a lot of cost is built into the design of the product that has to be taken care of upfront. DFX when it comes to design for manufacturing, design for supply chain, design for repair, design for iterations, whatever that could be. As you move from the concept, even if you have the product that could be manufactured, the next challenge comes is manufacturing piece of it. Here is an interesting statistics. There are almost 22 million factories in China. Just I'm speaking about China. All kinds of products, I'm not just talking about hardware products. About 10,000 EMS worldwide, contract manufacturers worldwide, tier 1 all the way to a small companies. Whom are you going to partner with for manufacturing your product? How do you know is that company is the right partner for you, not just of certain capabilities, but also the cultural fit, also the scaling. Are you going to grow? Is that CM of yours who's going to manufacture your product going to help you scale from 1,000 units to 1,000,000 units? Production fulfillment, there have been a lot of talks around reshoring and nearshoring, and moving manufacturing back from China or Asia back to the US or Mexico. The question is not about reshoring or nearshoring. The question is about right-shoring. Depending on what your product is, what your product strategy is, how you're fulfilling that product into the market. Is it e-commerce? Is it retail? Is it B2B, B2C? You have to determine what that production and fulfillment strategy is going to be. And then, of course, the scaling issue in terms of moving from a few thousand units to 1,000,000 units. So there are several challenges associated with this. And one saying is where startups don't fail because they move too slow. They fail because they move too fast in all the wrong directions. That's the key here. And a couple cases I would like to talk about is one of the companies that we had seen, just an example. Eco-friendly lighting products, had several iterations, trying to get into the market and market penetration. Didn't really think about the design, reliability, quality of the product, got into the market, and pretty much they did get to the market, but costs were too high, quality was low. What really happened, the solution was from the client, from this company, was we need to have a better contract manufacturer for our products. Changed 4 different contract manufacturers and pretty much ended closing down the company. So one example of why this happened, it was not just because of the product was not good or the concept was not good. There was challenges when it came to manufacturing this kind of a product. There are some companies who really get it right. Here is a great example of Whistle, which is pet tracking device and activity monitor for pets. And they had the right moves, integrated the hardware, software teams upfront, really looked at the need of not just the R&D on the product side, but also the manufacturing expertise that is needed to manufacture these products. Coordinated and collaborated with the CM. It was built out of China, no doubt, but it was tightly managed. It is all around, it's not around what you really negotiate, it's what you manage after the negotiation is done with your contract manufacturers. and established really good relationship all across the supply chain. And the outcomes were very clear, from Series A funding to retail revenue in 14 months. They had the big box retail revenue in about 17 months or so. COGS, actually, the cost of goods were way less than what was expected. I mean, 2.5% made a big difference. And successfully exited with acquisition by a well-established company. So there have been good cases, there have been bad, but the common theme that we have seen across these cases is, some of the do's and don'ts. Create core competencies, which is important for your value proposition, but don't be shy to look at external help. Where don't invest in non-core competencies when you're setting up your hardware startups. Embrace skilled resources. It is not a simple solution of just putting warm bodies to do something which is not that easy. It's when it comes to manufacturing, to my earlier point. Move fast, move boldly, but do not cut corners, because when it comes to manufacturing of hardware products, it's not around cutting corners. It will just not work. And then when you're working with your supply chain partners, your factory or your contract manufacturers or sub-tier suppliers, you should work with them, embrace them, their capabilities and so on, but do not assume that they care about your product as much as you care about yours. So you have to manage your supply chain. What we do is help companies, as I mentioned earlier, from taking the product from concept development, design engineering. Can this product be even manufactured at a price point that you are trying to sell to? The spectrum goes from product design engineering all the way to managing that supply chain for our customers worldwide. We have the 3 areas where when the product is designed and manufactured, then we get into setting up the manufacturing and the supply chain, whether it's China, Mexico, worldwide. Who should be the right partners, what should be the MSAs, how it should be managed, what are the processes behind it, and then lastly, once the supply chain is up and cranking, managing that supply chain through our resources worldwide. Processes and solutions are very, very important as you set up the supply chain and manage it from concept to customer, and we do that through global execution, global teams and local execution in different regions. About greater than 40 customers where we are primarily serving the IoT hardware devices, wearables, consumer electronics, medical devices, and to my earlier point, not that these challenges, there could be certain nuances, certain differences as you look at different industries. For example, medical requires a lot of FDA requirements that have to be met when it comes to manufacturing and so on. So we help the companies to take the products, whether it's you come to us with a simple concept or a sketch, or you have an existing supply chain and you need to optimize that particular supply chain worldwide. For more information, I'll be more than happy. We have the booth at 5043, but that's what I wanted to share with you and share some of the information and experiences that we have had. Thank you so much. Any questions? I'll be more than happy.